Happy midnight and welcome to the show. It's been a while, and we are so stoked to get back on the horse and talk about games again. I'm Johnny, and I am joined as always by best buds Keaton.
Whoa.
Holy shit, I'm first this time. Get fucked up. Hello. How's it going?
Good, dude. And Colin.
I quit. This is fucking bullshit. This is nonsense.
It, dude. Season 2 is a new beast.
Fuck. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking about games again with the fellas.
Yeah, it's genuinely so exciting. So, gentlemen, why don't we kick this thing off? And just in recent news, we haven't gotten the opportunity to truly unpack the Nintendo Direct that just happened. So, for people that might be listening to this, at a time where this Nintendo Direct is no longer relevant, there was just a Nintendo Direct, and they showed off some interesting things, some stinkers, a whole bunch of stuff. So why don't we just kind of go? It was 40 minutes long, I think, in its entire duration. I think it was about 40 minutes long, which is pretty fucking chonky.
They're all about 40 minutes, right? That's kind of their standard.
I'm kind of used to them. Maybe I'm thinking of Nintendo like indie showcases or something like that, but I'm used to them being closer to like the 20, 23 minute mark or something like that. 40 to me, I had to sit down and I had to be in a place for 40 minutes.
Maybe you're just usually bored the whole time.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So in the spirit of that, let's unpack it a little bit. What was your guys' favorite announcements? Colin, why don't you go first, bro?
So I actually did not watch the Direct. I listened to podcasts about it, which is what people should do. It's better. When I found out they were remaking Front Mission 1, my mind exploded, and then it turns out they're doing both of them, which is bizarre. It's a series people like, but it's not one that gets talked about. It hasn't had a new entry since like 2006, I want to say.
Interesting.
And they're hard to get. The second one never came out in America. It's a PS2 game. There's fan translations, but it never came out in America, so that'll be a whole fresh thing. And then
have you played that one too?
No, I have a fan translation ready to go, but I have not gone through it, and now I'll just wait. And then the first one, there was a Nintendo DS remake that came out, which I found unplayable. So I'm very excited. I am worried because they're going to rebalance it, right? So the game still has to be good. I'm just glad that they're trying and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and obviously when I saw the Front Mission announcement, I thought of you immediately, but besides the scope of Colin, is there actually a fan base surrounding this thing? Where did this fucking decision come from to do the Front Mission thing again?
It's a Square Enix RPG. There is always a fan base for any Square Enix RPG series, and it's tactics in the vein of Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics. So yes, but largely no, though, right?
Yeah. Kind of as you were saying, I don't hear people really talking about this game very much, inside of pretty niche circles and not with regularity. So I thought this just kind of odd, but I was cheersing for you, bro. That's pretty goddamn exciting. Is there a date on that thing?
It's July for the first one, and then the second one is announced generally later.
Cool. So that was your highlight. Anything else tickle your nuts pretty extravagantly?
There's a lot here, man. So the other one, they're redoing Klonoa 1 and 2, which again is fucking bizarre.
You again. Yeah.
After they did the ActRaiser remake, they're doing these directs and they're just staring me straight in the eye as they do the direct. These games are just for me. But those games cost $800 if you wanted to buy them. So it'll be great to be able to get them on a modern platform.
It's a little much.
And then the only other thing real quick, we don't have to talk about it, is the Earthbound Beginnings.
Yeah. That was really, really cool.
I wanted to mess around with that. I heard it's not actually a great game, but I played Mother 3 recently, and I just want to get the whole series out of the way.
Yeah. I just cannot believe that they're not doing Mother 3. They said Earthbound and then Earthbound Beginnings. I was just like, oh man, come on. Is this going to be it? Are they finally going to do it? So, and then they didn't. What are your thoughts?
With no political context here, there are trans characters in Mother 3, and I believe that is 100% why they're not bringing it over.
For real? I did not know that.
They are played as pure comedy and to be laughed at.
Yeah.
And I think that Nintendo wants no part of that. If they
real
didn't
90s
already,
stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I wonder if that actually puts a target on that game's back forever. Because honestly, I've never heard that point brought up again, but I think that's actually a really salient point. Maybe Mother 3 actually just doesn't have a place in 2022. You know, unless, I mean, there are fan translations that you can find in the rest of it. So, like, if you're really, you know, hunkering to play it, you can play it. But interesting. I didn't know that context.
I feel like that has to be it because they brought Earthbound Beginnings over, right?
Right.
So that means they're interested in the series, and why wouldn't they do the latest entry? You know, technically
that fans are clamoring for. Yeah.
Yeah. You can fix that. I wonder if just like a relocalization or a rewrite could fix that, or if it's just ingrained into the story.
Right. Like, yeah, I guess it depends on how aggressive the tone is or whatever, or like how pivotal it is to the comedic punchlines or whatever like that.
And how important it is for the story, you know, if it's just a few one-off lines, but
it is unbelievably core to the story. It is large.
That's insane.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That's insane, dude.
I'm like, I don't want to do this without spoiling stuff, but there's a race of characters. They're called the Magypsies, and they are like your spiritual guides through the game. And they are 6 trans characters.
Sure.
And
well, fascinating.
They give you an item that works as like a Zelda fairy, and it's a lipstick and a razor.
Oh my god, are you kidding?
And you get 6 of them, and you can use them as fairies on your characters. Yeah.
Oh my god, dude!
I couldn't fucking believe it as I played through the game. I was just like, what?
That is astounding, dude.
What's happening?
Oh my god. Okay, well, honestly, that makes a fuck ton more sense now.
Yeah, I guess I'll just never bring it up again, honestly, because it makes a whole lot of sense.
But I mean, you know, I am excited to have Earthbound readily accessible to me. I can pick up my Switch and just play that in bed now. I've been dying to play an Earthbound remake conveniently for like literally the past decade. So I mean, this is pretty freaking cool. Yeah.
Just to be clear, though, this is not a remake, right? This is just the Super Nintendo version on the
it's just
Classic.
Exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, how about you, Keith? What lit you up about this, if anything, in the Nintendo Direct?
Not a whole lot. Chrono Cross being remastered and coming to the Switch is cool. Been meaning to play that for a while. I played Chrono Trigger once, like 12 years ago, like around 2010. So pretty late to the party. I would love to replay it and play Chrono Cross again. Colin, you talk about that game quite a lot too.
I'm excited for it.
Only heard like kind of middling, kind of mixed things about it, but you talked about it much more positively than I've heard elsewhere. So I'm very interested to see what it's all about.
It's another of the classic PlayStation 1 Square games. And this is something I've been working on as a thesis. No RPGs have a good story, really. There are just like slightly more passable ones, or I think the best you can hope for is fun ones. Like Chrono Trigger is a fun time travel story. Yeah. Chrono Cross tries to go way too hard in philosophy and stuff like that. But the craziest part about this is that it's the Radical Dreamers edition. Radical Dreamers is, I want to say visual novel, but I don't know if there's any visuals actually. It might just be a text-only game that was released in Japan through the Super Nintendo Satellaview add-on.
Yeah, the Satellaview.
So
it's so cool that they're releasing a Satellaview game. Gives me hope for the Zelda one.
They just do the coolest shit sometimes, and I'm so happy with like what they're doing with ActRaiser and Front Mission, and they're on a really good trajectory for paying respect to their older library. You know, I mean, this is a Square Enix game, but Nintendo partnership is allowing it to happen.
Yeah, certainly. I'm similarly excited to play Chrono Cross for the first time. It seemed like it has the vibes, dude.
Banger soundtrack. It's Yasunori Mitsuda. He's incredible.
Heck yeah. Any of you guys excited for Triangle Strategy? We were talking to a friend yesterday about this who was pretty freaking hyped about that.
Boy, I think so. I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy Tactics fan, and I love Bravely Default, but I haven't played Octopath Traveler. I'm kind of lukewarm on that studio. But we'll see. There's so much coming up. I don't know if I'll get to it, but down the line, I could definitely see myself playing it.
Yeah, one thing about that studio that does surprise me is the amount of polish that goes into those games. They're going for a thing, which I like. At least I applaud them for trying a thing and like committing to the thing. Because I mean, man, it's kind of an alienating just gameplay loop nowadays, and then to go so hard and to try something new visually with it and commit yourself wholly to that and then slap a $60 price tag on it. That's like, man, the balls on those developers for like doing that and committing themselves to it. I at least applaud them for that.
I think it'll be a long enough game. It'll probably be 40 plus hours, I think. And that art style, I think they refer to it as HD 2D.
Yeah, I think that is the language they're using now. Yeah.
And I think it looks good. Some are better than others, but it's catching on. I think last year they announced that they're remaking the first 1 through 3 Dragon Quest games, and it looks like Octopath Traveler. Like it's like they are doing that style. So it's interesting to see how that trend keeps going.
They did it with Live Alive as well, that they're bringing over or whatever.
Announced, yeah.
Yeah. How?
No one knows.
Yes.
No one knows.
A very awkward title. I don't know if there's much more that I want to cover in the Nintendo Direct. I mean, it ended with the kicker of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I don't think any of us give a shit about. That's
played,
a pretty weird one last thing.
Xenogears, that's the only one I've played in the Xeno series. I do not care.
I don't think it's that weird of a thing to end on. I mean, there is a huge fan base for that, for sure.
And it's Nintendo exclusive.
Yeah, that too. It's just completely outside the Venn diagram of us and most of our friends. I don't think I know anybody who really cares about those games, but they seem extremely popular.
Yeah. I think we just always, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but at least I romanticize the one last thing to be like a bomb drop. You know, you're always expecting to see Zelda, or you're always expecting to see Metroid Prime 4.
God,
that's what E3 is supposed to be, man.
Yeah, like blow my fucking mind with your one last thing. That's why I've been sticking around for 40 minutes as you're giving me all this garbage.
So the last thing I want to say is that with all the cool and new stuff they're bringing, they're still going to Nintendo. They're bringing over the Wii version of Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, and there's a new Wii Sports game called Switch Sports or something.
Yep.
Keep doing you, Nintendo. Keep doing you.
Yeah, keep doing you.
We also have a bunch of new Mario Kart, remade Mario Kart stages, which you can pay a whole lot of money for.
That's bonkers. That's a Wii U game.
I know, and it's like $26 for that DLC, and I'm assuming most people, unless you can buy the maps themselves individually, you're just giving Nintendo $26 and saying, "Hey, this is your $26 now over the next 2 years as you decide to dole out these, remade maps." It's that's like
pre-ordering.
That's creepy capitalist DLC. Nintendo speak, and then
it's weird.
I guess I will end by saying I'm oddly sold on Kirby. I'm oddly sold on that weird freaking.
I am very surprised by how sold you are on that. How instantly you were sold the last Nintendo Direct when they showed it, because I was just like, a new Kirby game. I don't know if I give a shit. I really don't. What is it that's lighting you up so much with that, Johnny?
It's the vibes. I think it has the vibes. I genuinely think it has the vibes. There's a shot of like Kirby walking through this beautiful neon lit like amusement park in the most recent trailer. I'm just like, dude, we're actually going to take Kirby to cool locations. And like, as basic of a character as Kirby is, he inhales things and he flies. That's it. That's what he does. Putting him in interesting locations to me is actually like, that's simple enough of a concept that it's easy to get your head around, but then you can do creative things with that because it's so simple. The decorations around that can be interesting. So we'll see if they jump the shark. He's becoming vending machines and shit like that. Who knows? But
yeah,
honestly,
but I mean, for Kirby, that's not even close to jumping the shark.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I think Kirby might have the vibes. So we'll see. If I need a break from Elden Ring a month into the process, maybe I'll pick up Kirby. So that's the Nintendo Direct. Let's talk about games, boys.
Video games.
Keaton, you're bringing an interesting game to the table this week. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Moonlighter, bro?
Yeah, I recently played Moonlighter. It had been on my radar for a couple of years. I think it came out in 2018, and I heard about it like soon after. It's one of those games that, is kind of on the back burner, in the back of my mind, get to it when I get to it. And I think it went on sale on the Switch eShop at some point, so I just grabbed it and finally picked it up. Do you guys know much about this game?
Yeah, peek behind the curtain. instead of surprising the guests with games this week, we decided we were going to talk about it ahead of time. So Keaton told me he's going to play Moonlighter, and then I beat Moonlighter. Let's go, boys.
Nice.
No way.
I figured you were going to do that, Colin. I did. I assumed you were going to go in, dude.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wild.
Well, then we actually have a pretty interesting panel to dissect this game because insofar as my experience is concerned, I'm very familiar with the game. I watched about, in preparation for this, maybe 30 or 40 minutes of gameplay that existed within maybe the first 3 or 4 hours of the game. Because in case the both of you sold me on this video game and I decided to go play it thereafter, I didn't want to spoil myself too aggressively on what happens late game if there are things to be spoiled. So I was being a little bit cautious and conservative in that way. But in terms of vibes, and I think I have a small grasp on the mechanics of the game and stuff like that. But Keaton, why don't you go in a little bit? Tell us what this game's about.
Yeah, so the basic premise is that kind of flips the script a bit, and you play like the RPG game shop owner, where you're selling shit to the heroes and whatnot. It doesn't go 100% on that premise though, because you are also going into dungeons at night, and then during the day you're running the shop and selling all the little treasures and bits and bobs that you find in the dungeon. So the dungeon aspect is, like your kind of roguelike dungeon crawler, top-down perspective. You've got a couple different weapon types. You got a sword and shield. You got a big sword, a spear, gloves that are like these molly things with like spikes on them, and then you have a bow and arrow. And yeah, the shop owning aspect is cool. I mean, it's obviously the most original part about the game, so it kind of draws you in.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. I mean, it was a great like Saturday morning kind of game to just like sit down with a cup of coffee and have a nice chill time with. It's all about the vibes. I played a little of the town theme for you guys before we got started here. And I fucking love the vibes in this game. They're immaculate. The music, the characters are all just pretty full of life. And
it's funny you mentioned that, Keith, because I made this a podcast game. So when you were playing the music for us, I was like, oh yeah, I think I vaguely remember that theme. I barely listened to the music at all, and I just had podcasts as I played the game. So it's funny that you mentioned that.
Colin, anything that you want to fill in the gaps there? Because I do have some questions that I want to pose, but like if you want to, maybe make any addenda to that.
I love giving just like the elevator pitch for this game. It's a roguelike Binding of Isaac dungeon crawler where you're the shopkeeper. It's just such a unique idea.
It is.
There's more to get into here about how the specific systems work. I think it's a really good game. It's super satisfying, and the loop, it's all about the loop. It's so short, and that's why, like Keaton said, Saturday morning or just pick up and play. You do the dungeon. The dungeon runs can be from anywhere from like literally 2 minutes to like 15 at the most, it seems like. And then you always have enough stuff to sell at the shop. I have a lot of gripes with the game.
I do too. Yeah.
The shop system becomes incredibly boring after the first half of the game, and there's nothing really to it. They try to set you up with this system where the customers react to your pricing, and you're supposed to use that to dial in, am I charging too much? And then I'll throw this back to Keaton. There also was like if you were supposed to be like, if you're selling it too much, it would get like not as popular, and then there was neutral popularity.
Popularity would go down, yeah.
I never saw that. Or maybe I just didn't know how to interact with this system, but I never had to like interface with that portion of the shopkeeping at all.
No, you're right. I had a similar experience. So yeah, like there are 4 different dungeons, and they do go in order. So each time you get to a dungeon, you have a whole new set of items that you're collecting and selling now. Like a whole new tier, basically. It is a very tiered system from one dungeon to the next.
Unbelievably tiered.
Yeah, and I'll get into that a little more in a second, but basically once you get some new items that you can sell, you have no idea what to sell them for. You do have like a ledger, a book, keeping track of all your items, and it puts them in order of a price, but it doesn't tell you what the price is. So you have to just put something on the shelf and set a price for it, and then watch how people react. And they might love the price, which means it's too low. They might be happy with it, which means it's just right. They might begrudgingly buy it, which means it's a little too high, but they'll still buy it. And that's what makes the popularity go down, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
And then there's
supposedly
where and then there's where they hate the price and they just won't even buy it.
Do customers have a universal agreement on whether or not it's too high or too low, or is it like per customer?
It's
so like we can assume that
there is
baked
like a
within
correct price.
Yep.
So like baked within the game system itself is a correct price for every single item, but you're just kind of like pissing into the wind, trying to put an arbitrary monetary value to each of these items when the game knows the right price, but like it's kind of like tidying it up as a gameplay mechanic to hide that price from you and have you guess.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to make this guess off of, or are you just being like, how are you choosing a price? Who knows what the system looks like economically?
You do, because like in that book that you have, it does put everything in order, and then there's also a few cutoff points where it says, like 1,000 gold right here, which means anything above that sells for more than 1,000 gold. Anything below that is less than 1,000. So you can dial it in by like, okay, it's between like the 100 and the 1,000. It's somewhere in there. But like a good price can be distinct from like a bad price by like 50 gold. So, you have to figure out what is it between 100 and 1,000? Is it 600? It's 700, 750. So you have to find that, and you'll have other items in there that you've already sold and have found the right price on. Now you have this other one. So yeah, it's just finding the sweet spot.
Which I would argue,
on those other reference points.
I would argue that that's just not like a super fun mechanic, a pure guess and check. And then
it's really not.
The other half of that is once you get the price where they're happy with it, the game auto sets the price for you. So it's like a one-time work.
Oh,
it automatically
once you get that
sets
price
it to the last thing you put it at. Yeah.
Yep. And then when you're selling the next time, you just add everything to the shop, and then it sells.
Yeah, throw the whole stack on there, sell it all for the correct price.
Correct price.
And you're done thinking about that item forever now, basically. Like, because the price does not fluctuate. The popularity of it will not change as long as you're selling it for the right price. So there's like very little interactivity there with that system.
Is there, so like, I mean, obviously it kind of feels like the shtick of this game is that it is bifurcated between the obviously running a shop and then running the dungeons and the rest of it. Is that actually the extent of the shopping element of this game, like price setting and the rest of it, or is it deeper than that?
There's a few things to do as the shop owner. I mean, you have to restock the shelves because once someone takes an item, it does leave an empty spot. They take the entire stack. It seems like these people just have unlimited gold. If they like something, they'll just buy it. And there's no reason really to sell any. I guess maybe you could sell something for a very good price, make it more popular, and then maybe charge more for it. I never really experimented with that.
It's not necessary. Yeah, like that's probably how it works, but that the game never encourages you or needs that level of detail in the selling.
Yeah. But yeah, the interactivity as you're running the shop is like restocking shelves. If you have things that you don't know the price on, then you're trying to figure that out by putting out like one at a time, watching how people react, changing the price. So you are moving around the shop to do these things. You might also get robbed. You'll see someone come in.
That's fun.
And be like kind of sneaky, like walking around the shop and then grab something and run out. And you have to go over and tackle them.
Yeah, it's not fun because they mark them as a thief. It's not like a mystery. Yeah. It walks in and says, I'm the thief. No. Yeah. And then you have to wait for him to grab something and then you run over and dodge roll into him. So it's not fun at all.
It sounds like a fun idea, but it sounds like poor as shit execution.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That should be like trying to catch a thief in real life. Exactly. Like thieves are trying to hide the idea that they're a thief. That's the point of being a thief.
Yep.
Yeah, and if they get out the door, then they're gone. You're not chasing anyone out of the shop.
Oh my God. So I mean, this is honestly a bit of a shame to hear, because like when I heard the elevator pitch about this game and when I was reading blurbs about it, this in some ways feels like a dream thesis to me for a video game. But like, there's so much that you could do with that shopping side of the gameplay loop. I think in terms of like maybe even socially, like having a relationship with customers and like knowing what they want, because like in theory it should take place like within the same village, right? So like the people that are coming to you, like actually there's really great, in my head, narrative potential to have like people coming back, and then like you learn that they need particular types of things based off of their life and who they are. So like they show up looking for a particular type of thing because they as a person have particular needs given their life, and like slowly getting to know your customer base and the people who like you're serving.
Right.
That seems like such fertile ground for like making that beyond just a gameplay mechanic. It feels like doing something like that would make that special, you know? But the fact that it's just kind of like this tepid, you know, arbitrary price setty thing and tackle thievy thing, it just sounds kind of shallow. I don't know.
It is, yeah. You see the same couple townsfolk come in, and they're just looking for whatever. Occasionally you'll see like an adventurer all geared up, and they have that little bubble, the same bubble that will show you like the little cat eye thing for a burglar. There might be like a sword and shield, which means they're looking for a weapon. So you're like, oh, that guy, he needs a weapon. Well, obviously they're dressed as an adventurer, but they give you the extra hint just in case you missed it.
Sure.
So you can run to the back, go into your chest and be like, oh, I have the sword that I don't need. Put that out. They'll buy that. And those sell for good money. But other than that, yeah, there's not like getting to know like, oh, this lady like needs this thing. It's you've seen that same lady 4 times today. You know, like they're different people, but they're, you know, just looking for random shit. And as soon as they see something for a price that's good, they pick it up and they buy it.
Yeah, I would say there's no social aspect at all to this game. You have a relationship, you have like a mentor named Xenon who kind of guides you through the game, but it's not even an interactive thing. He just gives you some lines of dialogue in between the dungeons.
It's got a few story beats, yeah.
Yeah, so as Keaton said with the tiered system, and this is something I like actually, there's, as you go in the dungeon, besides making profit from the items you get, you also want to use that to upgrade your equipment. That's the other pillar of outside the dungeon. There are 4 dungeons, there are 4 upgrade tiers. And the items for those upgrades are in specifically the dungeon that it relates to. So if you're going for the second tier of upgrades, it's in the second dungeon, which I really appreciated, which means you didn't need to go back and forth or wonder where stuff is.
That's clean. Yeah, that's really clean. Gotcha.
It is clean. And basically, every time you like beat one dungeon, move on to the next, the whole thing is to just upgrade everything to the next tier so that you can make it into the boss fight and beat that. And then the whole thing starts over. But unfortunately, it's only that deep. Like you don't earn any new skills, learn anything really. It's just kind of polishing your game a little bit with like the very few tools that you have. And it's just a numbers game. You know, you get a new set of items, they sell for like 8 times more than the last tier of items. And because the cost of everything goes up like 8 times to get the upgrades and stuff. So like
it doesn't matter, right? Like none of it matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It all feels exactly
increase.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers get bigger, but everything feels exactly the same.
Yeah, I think the game is too long. I think that was part of my issue with the game. Like by the time I hit the 4th dungeon, I'm like, oh, I'm just doing this again. And to be honest, I was so tired of the shop system. I Googled the correct price for all the 4th dungeon items. Because I was just like, I just don't care. Like, it's fine. I don't even care. So we talked a lot about the shop aspects. Keaton, do you want to get in the actual gameplay portion of this, the dungeon crawling?
Sure. The last thing I want to say about the shop aspect, though, is that once you reach the end game, and there is like post end game stuff, I think it was later added as DLC, but it just comes with the standard version at this point, at least for Switch. You can hire a person to run your shop for you. And then you just don't have to interact with that system at all, which is just hilarious. You give them a 30% cut. But yeah, you might even be able to do it before then. I don't remember. I think you actually just have to upgrade your shop a certain amount. Because there's like
it's the third shop upgrade,
town building aspect of it too. The town thing is kind of cool. I mean, like there are townsfolk out in the town that you can go and talk to, and they have like 3 lines of dialogue. But then you leave them, you go to talk to another person, and they have the exact same 3 lines of dialogue. That happened quite a bit.
Yeah, nothing there.
Video games.
So
am
again,
I right?
the vibes are so good, but like you get things like that take you out of the experience. But yeah, let's talk more about the dungeons.
What was your weapon of choice? This is important.
Okay. So they start you off with the sword and shield, which is 1 weapon. And then there's a great sword, there's a spear, there's the claw thing.
There's a bow.
And there's a bow. I got a bow early on, so that was my secondary. You can switch weapons on the fly. So it was nice to have a ranged weapon. I used the sword and shield throughout the entire game because I didn't find any of the other 3 until like the 4th dungeon. I don't know if just got totally fucked by the RNG, but I didn't find any of that until the
They
like,
wanted
very
you
end.
to, you can craft the training version of any of the items and work your way up. It wasn't
That's
clear.
right.
No, I totally get that. And there's like not enough. It kind of acts like it wants you to try all the weapons, but there's not enough resources where it like is viable. So I got the spear, and I think the spear is the best weapon by far. The reach just makes the game incredibly easy. And so once I set on the spear, and I was on like say my tier 2 or 3 spear, that means I would have to start going back to other dungeons, collecting resources just to try the sword and shield if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So once I was that far with the spear, I was like, this is it then. You know, this is what the game is.
Unless you want to grind in, previous dungeons, which sounds tedious as fuck.
Yeah.
How does it feel? How the actual control of the character, how does it feel? Does it feel cozy?
Yeah. Colin's making the hand motion.
It's all right.
Yeah, I agree. It's all right. You have the dodge roll. With the sword and shield, basically the entire thing is get in, get a hit or 2, and roll out, and that's kind of the entire thing. And character's not super fast. He doesn't move around super fast, so you have to be like a little bit deliberate with your timing and your positioning.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah, it's okay. It's just okay.
Is it hard?
No.
So okay, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a thing here. So
let's go.
I think the game, when I first started playing the game, it was incredibly hard. Keaton, do you know those the ghost knights that hold their sword up and do one big down slash at you? It's in the first dungeon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Those were incredibly hard. I found it hard to hit them and dodge out, which is why I chose the spear. You can outrange them. They'll never hit you. You just poke them, they go back. They'll never hit you.
Yeah, it sounds like the spear kind of breaks the game, honestly. At least the way I was playing it.
I think the game is hard, but they give you the tools to make it trivial. So I was playing the game in the first dungeon. I was figuring things out. I was getting to the 2nd floor, 3rd floor. The boss is at the end of the 3rd floor. But then you start looking through the shops you have available in town. So there's a shop called The Retailer, in which you can buy the items you need to upgrade, which makes finding shit trivial. So you need 3 of those things to upgrade your spear. You buy 3 of those things. There's a potion seller that you can just buy the fancy health potions and take unlimited potions with you. There is no potion limit. You can also buy one that shows you the map. So as you're going through the dungeon, it's very Binding of Isaac. You're trying to find the boss of the floor to move up to the next level. So you just do that and it shows you where the boss is. So I would interface with each dungeon until I got the shits of it and I got all the upgrades I wanted. You buy 3 map potions and then you buy the items you need to upgrade your sword all the way. And then you go in the dungeon, you pop the potion, and it shows you where it is. And
oh, man.
I never fought a boss. I just stood there and tanked it and popped health potions. This could potentially reflect poorly on me for not interfacing with the game properly. But I wasn't necessarily power gaming it. You know,
right.
I just took... Most of the time, I didn't even get through one stack of potions.
Were given.
Yeah. And I just sat there and I just poked him with my spear because the 3rd hit's a critical. You want to get the 3rd hit every time for the critical hit.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it just became absurdly trivial.
Yeah, I did not interface with those systems nearly as much. you mentioned you can hold unlimited potions. That is true. You do have to sacrifice some space in your bag for that. And you can only have 5 potions equipped at one time, and you can't go into your bag during a fight. So the most you could have with you for the boss fight is 5 potions. That you could be holding more in your bag, but
right. I thought it was just real time, and I would like possibly get hit while I was switching potions. But I think you are right.
Yeah,
so that shows that I never needed
your bag.
More than 5 potions to tank through it, though.
True.
Yeah, unless you use some on the way to the boss.
I definitely did. Yeah, definitely.
Are the dungeons, so I mean, like, roguelite is obviously thrown around. Are they procedurally generated, like Binding of Isaac?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have some interesting variety in the actual rooms, too. It's a basic, grid-based, like Binding of Isaac or Zelda, with doors possibly in north, south, east, and west walls. And then there's a lot of obstacles and holes in the floor and stuff like that.
Did you interface with the intentionally falling down the hole, Keaton? Did you catch on to that?
A little bit. I did that a little bit.
That's one of the core parts of exploring the dungeon. So in the pits, occasionally you'll see like a little twinkle or sparkle, and that's supposed to let you know that you're supposed to jump down there. And it can be one of 3 things. It'll either be like a challenge room where it's a special chest that spawns like a short wave of enemies on you, and you get like a cool item for it. The other one is just like an extremely expensive item, like the dungeon's best item to sell. And then the other one is the best one. It's a chest that allows you to send all of your currently equipped items automatically back to your home chest, which is huge. You only have 20 spots, which fills up real quickly.
Sure.
That's one of my other issues. Yeah. The curses, which means you can't properly stack items up to 10. So if you have cursed items, you can only have literally 20 items instead of like 100 items with stacking. So you got that, and then that just made your dungeon run twice as good. Keaton, how did you feel about the 20 item limit? At first, I was blown away that wasn't something you could upgrade.
It made sense. I mean, you do have to make a call in a dungeon. When do you dip the fuck out? Because if you die, you lose most of what's in your bag. The top row you get to keep, but everything else just gets lost. And so you have to be careful. And I did like the management aspect, especially with the curses. So the curses on items, there are a couple different ones. There's one where it could be pointing in any of 8 directions, and whatever item it's pointing at, it could have a few different effects. One of them is like when you return to town, the one it's pointing at will get destroyed. But you can just put that at the edge of the bag so that it's pointing at nothing. The edge of the little grid system in the submenu. There's one that will change another item into the cursed item. So if it's a really good item, a very really expensive one, then you make it point at something really cheap that will then be transformed, and you get 10 times as much money for that now. And then there are some that can break curses, so that could be kind of fun sometimes with okay, I have this item that I can't stack on this other item because of this curse, but I have this other one that could break the curse, and just trying to figure out how to use those and arrange things to get as much value in your bag as possible.
Sure.
I love this part so fucking much. Oh my god, my OCD brain, it was so soothing. My favorite one was the curse breaker. So you'd pick the curse breaker and you'd break the curse, and then you could stack it up so your bag would be full. But if you hit a chest just right, you get that down to 6 open spots, and no better feeling. Loved it.
So, like, I guess, like, at the end of the day, is this, I mean, it sounded like when you guys started talking about this thing that, like, there were at least generally positive vibes.
Yeah, and then we crushed it for the next 20 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, well, I mean, this might be an example of something that is greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, as you begin to dissect it, you can, get, mildly petty about an infinite number of things. But, like, at the end of the day, is Moonlighter worth playing?
Keaton, you want to go first?
So this is a game that very heavily depends on what you're looking for and what you're expecting. If you're expecting a pretty intense dungeon crawling experience, it might not be for you. But like, I think leading off the elevator pitch with the running the shop part is a very good call, because that gives you an idea of what it's actually like to live in this game.
Yeah,
it is a more casual experience. You asked if this game is hard. I personally didn't find it very hard. Sometimes I just had to realize that I was taking it a little too casually, and just getting bopped by some enemies and thinking, okay, I need to just be a little more careful. But I was playing this pretty laid back, pretty casual, and I had fun with it. I did. It's just vibes for days. I would only play like an hour or two at a time. I couldn't play for hours and hours because the loop does get a little bit stale.
Yeah.
I mean, I give it a soft recommend as long as you know what you're going in for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's a great game. And then part of the recommend for me is that it's always on sale on Switch. So it's like a fucking $8 purchase. And it just overstays its welcome. I think the loop, even with all the issues we've talked about, just go in the dungeon, get shit, sell it, upgrade your stuff, is extremely satisfying. It just simply goes on for too long. It's like a 15-hour game. And
15. Okay.
And after 2 hours, nothing else happens. Some of the unlocks are interesting, but nothing else happens truly.
Yeah, they really stop showing you anything new about 2 or 3 hours into the game. At that point, pretty much everything that the game has to offer.
So, I mean, I guess generally, like, actually no narrative revelations, nothing interesting happening with characters or, storytelling or anything?
They decide there's some story at the end, and it's fucking
at the
stupid.
very end.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I thought it was a kind of fun reveal at the end, because, like, you have the 4 dungeons, and then there's the 5th door. What's up, Colin?
No, I'm sorry. I thought the reveal overall was dumb, but there was one portion about, I can say this without spoiling it, but like the true nature of the dungeons and what you were doing, I thought that was a really good reveal.
Yeah, because no one really knows. Like, these dungeons just kind of like appeared one day, and there are such different disparate locations. Like, one is a golem dungeon of all these these like automatons coming to life and trying to kill you, and then one is a forest. You're just like in the middle of this dense forest, and then another one is a desert. You're just in the middle of the fucking desert. And then there's the tech dungeon, where it's all this weird high-techy fantasy tech, like electricity and stuff like that. So, and then there's the mysterious 5th door, and every time you beat a dungeon, one of the 4 locks falls off the 5th door, and so everyone's talking about what's behind the 5th door, or what is it? Finding out what that was, I thought was kind of fun. It was like basically the only instance of any interesting story going on at all. That did, I keep me kind of thinking about, about the game and what it might be. I don't know. Sounds like Colin hated it. I thought it was. Not going to say too much about it, of course. But.
I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but it's just an example of them, like knowing what they were doing. They were trying to be too cute with it and try to make a bigger story. There was nothing leading up to it. There was nothing to reward that payoff. They just decided this is what's going to happen, and the story we're talking about is 10 minutes maybe total of your 15-hour game. There's the premise of the story is, as you said, Keaton, the 5th door, and what's behind the mysterious 5th door, and then that's the first minute of the game, and then at 14 hours and 50 minutes you get story for the last 10 minutes, and that's the total story in the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like maybe the recommendation here would come from, if you're looking for a good touch and go kind of game.
Perfect.
This feels like a great thing to pick up, get in, and just do a gameplay loop. Maybe spend 30 minutes playing the thing, set it down. Maybe not a main game for you, but maybe if you're looking for something a little more, just pick up and play.
Yeah, this is a great counterpart to like something like a From Software game, where you just need something to chill out a little bit and break the pace.
Yeah, and maybe the last thing that I'll say about this is that. Obviously, I when I heard about this premise, I love this premise so freaking much. And maybe the heart of why I love the premise of Moonlighter so much is that often, when your hero goes on a journey in the game, it's very difficult to reach out and grab that as a player because it's so unrelatable, at this point in modern society. There's something so utterly pleasant about having, somebody that's a little closer to home, and like, any impediment to their hero's journey is that they have to work a job. There's something about that is really, really charming. And like, actually, like, I think it helps an audience connect to it because they actually see the impediments of, just committing yourself fully to a hero's lifestyle. There's something about that I quite, I think that's really, really neat. And I applaud the developer. Shout out to the developer who is
Digital Sun.
Digital Sun. Shout out to Digital Sun for at least trying something new. And just hats off for that, for sure.
Makes me really excited if they do a Moonlighter too. And
yes.
The pitch and ideas is still brilliant. They just need to figure out how to properly get the shopkeeping to work properly. And then, as we discussed, I think you do add the social elements, a town, an actual story that you service throughout the game instead of just at the end.
Yeah. If they could flesh some of these things out, it'd be great. It is an interesting development story, though. This is like a side project for them. It's their very first original game that they developed themselves. Everything else, they were like an outsourcing company. So they were developing other people's games. So this is a big passion project for them. And you can really see that come through, I think. Is
that 2017 this came out? Is that correct?
2018, I think. And Digital Sun still does not have a Wikipedia page.
Wow. Because Moonlighter is pretty popular. I mean, it's something that I think is maybe in the general consciousness of gamers.
Yeah, definitely. Came out May 29th, 2018.
Cool. So yeah, shout out to those devs. Keep making cool things, for sure. Keep iterating. It sounds like at least a really, really valiant first effort, for sure. Keep on doing the thing. Keaton, there was a second game that you just wanted to shout out real quick and maybe unpack just momentarily. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a quick one. It's called The Ramp. It's a skateboarding game. It's like barely a game though, and that's not a slight at the game. The developer himself put it in the Steam description that this is less of a game and more of a digital toy. Like it's so very simple, but it's very satisfying. And I don't know, it's something really fun to just kind of get your hands on for like 5 minutes at a time. So it's a skateboarding game, kind of isometric view. At first, you start off with just a half pipe, and it takes you 30 seconds to learn all the controls and everything that you can do in the game. And then they give you a couple other levels. There's a bowl. It's actually two bowls that are connected with this little underground passage between them. There's a pool, kind of L-shaped pool, and then there's the mega ramp, which is this like 200-foot tall huge ramp that you just go off once and do this big jump, and then they bring you back to the beginning. And it's just a really nice game. There's you press the, I guess, A button on an Xbox controller, or X on PS4 controller, and that like gets your character to crouch down. And there's a certain rhythm that you have to do that in a half pipe. You do it as you're going down vertically, and then you let go as you like hit the curve, and then hit it again when you hit the flat part at the bottom, and then let go to jump off the vertical part going back up. So that's a very simple, just kind of rhythm to get used to, and then you can do spins and grabs, and that's it. And it's just something very, very simple and satisfying to play around with,
Is that what has you shouting this thing out? Is that it's simply satisfying, and there's something about that is to be celebrated?
Yeah, I just think it's cool. It's a very unique kind of thing where someone just wanted to make this little thing. I think he fully just like made it for himself. I think another part of the description says that it was created to scratch a very specific itch, and I just think it's cool. I like the incredible variety of stuff that we get with the current place that we're at in video games, where most people can make something like this. And I just think it's cool. And I do really enjoy the game as well, so I just wanted to shout it out.
I love skateboarding games, but I haven't played this one. I definitely want to check it out sometime.
I mean, is there like a progression system or anything like that, or is it literally just a sandbox to just like meditate and have fun?
Yeah,
honestly, that's so cool to me. Just like literally, just go in. It feels meditative, is what it sounds like to me. Just like literally like having your brain chemicals interacting with the digital space in a very clean way, and that's it. That's the experience.
Yep. Yeah. There's like 4 pre-made avatars you can pick from. That's it. There's the 4 levels that you can pick. You can turn music on or off. You can go hardcore mode, which is just like a little more strict on like, did you actually land that spin or were you too far off? It's just like a little tighter on those margins, and that's it. Like it's very bare bones, and I just really appreciate that.
That's awesome. Not everything has to be a 30-hour game. You know, we could use some more just experiences or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, video games can be literally anything. We're literally making it like we're making something out of nothing. It can be anything. Do more shit like that. Why not? So yeah, shout out The Ramp. It's called The Ramp.
Yes.
Cool. Shout out. Check it out if that's your thing. So we're gonna pivot gears here quite a bit. And,
a little bit.
I played a game a couple of months ago at this point, but I think it definitely deserves to be talked about specifically in current company for sure. A little game in the West called Haunting Ground. Known in Japan, it is a 2005 Capcom game, so it is Eastern developed. Called Demento.
Yeah, I love it. It's so weird. What were they thinking?
And like, do you know what? Maybe we'll just fucking start there. Haunting Ground makes no sense given the content of the game. Demento doesn't make much sense either. So like, in terms of them selling the thing with the title, it's so utterly misleading to the point that like even when I downloaded it, I didn't know what the fuck I was getting into. Woefully misled by the title. I don't think either of those titles are very good.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like a I don't know, like a paranormal, like ghosts.
It should be a ghost
kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. It's not a ghost thing. Spoiler alert. It's not a ghost thing. Like literally Haunting Ground, I think makes so little sense. And it's just so weird because like the way that I'm going to start this out, I think, is talking about the actual legacy of the game. Because when I rolled credits on this thing, you're kind of left with a particular type of feeling about Haunting Ground. And maybe I'll just talk about, just in more generalities, Haunting Ground is a 2005 Capcom survival horror game that came out at the end of the PS2's life cycle, released the same goddamn year as Resident Evil 4.
Oops. Whoopsie.
Yeah, whoops. It was originally conceived of as a clock tower project. I think specifically Clock Tower 4, but then due to some weird marketing and rebranding and the rest of it, they decided to make it its own thing. Honestly, the development process of Haunting Ground itself is very, very interesting. But they landed on a completely original story with original characters, which I think is bold and brave, and especially to release it alongside probably the most popular survival horror game of all time in the same year by the same company. Haunting Ground in some ways was a doomed project. It was doomed to fail in so many different types of ways. So like, I mean, to start there, it's weird the frequency and I guess just general regularity that I see people speaking about this game lovingly. In 2022, I'm a part of a bunch of different like survival horror communities online on different socials and the rest of it. And man, the love that this game gets in 2022, it's remembered so fondly. And I don't necessarily know where that mythos, where the source of that mythos necessarily comes from. It is currently, if you want to get a physical copy of the game, it's like $500 or $600. It
sounds right. Yep, sure.
Like because it sold like 10, so that's all that's out there.
Right, and especially like in the West, like this game didn't sell well at all. It honestly didn't even review that well. But it, like, I wonder how much of people's reverence for this game in 2022 is kind of like the weirdness of its development and its release and its lack of sales, and then it subsequently being just explosive economically. It feels like to me, as somebody who did genuinely enjoy the game, and I think it's very, very, very special, and we'll get into that. I'm just simply curious where this, I guess, retroactive reverence for the game comes from.
People love their PlayStation 2 survival horror games. It's a specific era. Everyone talks about Silent Hill 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
I want to briefly push back. So it's released the same year as Resident Evil 4, but that was a GameCube exclusive at the time, wasn't it?
At the time,
yes.
For about a year.
At the time, it was. Yeah, it was.
So you would conceptually think that would buy them at least a little bit of space versus dumping 2 games on the same system. The point still stands, though. I just wanted to bring that up.
This is
certainly
PS2 exclusive, correct?
Yes, it's only
I
came out
believe so.
PS2.
Yes. I guess just specifically to that point, it would be the same Capcom marketing resources.
Sure.
And if you're gonna push for one of them, you're certainly gonna push for Res 4, which is a shame because I do think Haunting Ground in probably by most metrics is more special than Resident Evil 4. It's more memorable. It's more interesting. It's more distinct. It is the quintessential Happy Midnight hot take. Is that Resident Evil 4 isn't what people say it is?
Boo.
So. Maybe just like, do you guys have a relationship with this video game at all? Do you know what it is?
I've never heard of it until you mentioned it when we were talking the other day about it.
I read a bunch of those Racket Boy genre articles, and they have all the PlayStation 2 survival horror games like Kuon and Rule of Rose.
Love Kuon.
And they're
Rule
also
of Rose is next to my list. Yeah,
they're also like super pricey. All of them, like universally, they're all $300 plus. So
that is the trifecta right there. Kuon, Haunting Ground, and Rule of Rose are
they've always been
$1,000 thing.
They've always been on my radar for that reason. I played Haunting Ground for 45 minutes.
Cool.
Right before this podcast. Let's go.
Nice, dude.
Nice.
So you saw. I mean.
I did not play it or watch any gameplay. I read a little bit about it. Also, I've not played Clock Tower. I did read that it's considered a spiritual successor. I didn't know about the history of it. I didn't know about what, you said that it was actually conceived as a Clock Tower project.
And a lot of the
systems, that
detail. A lot of the systems are the same. Like the panic meter and that stuff comes from Clock Tower.
Right, right, and just like general premise of female protagonist escaping just general like horrific pursuers. Like I mean that's kind of like the nature of Clock Tower, and in generally horrific and dark themed environments and the rest of it. So I mean, but in its heart, Haunting Ground is a Clock Tower game. Go ahead, Colin.
We played Clock Tower 3 together with shout out cousin Jimmy.
Shout out Jimmy.
Shout out. That game holds a special place in my heart because I started tracking games I beat back in 2013, and Clock Tower 3 is the very first game on my games beaten list.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
That is wonderful.
Now, I don't remember anything about it, but we played it. That happened.
We played it. We certainly did. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just kind of explain a little bit about what this game is and how it functions. And like, you guys tell me if it sounds special at all, because I do think this game is an example of it being greater than the sum of its parts. Because like at this point in 2005, it's just another survival horror game. It's just another survival horror game. And we know what that means. You know what I mean? Like Haunting Ground belongs in that exact same gallery alongside all of the other mid-2000s to late 90s survival horror games. So we're dealing with fixed camera angles. No tank controls. Which drove me fucking crazy.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and I scoured those options looking for them. I can't believe that you would keep the fixed camera angles, which I love. I absolutely adore fixed camera angles. I think it's so directorially interesting.
Yes.
It's so creative, and it allows you to curate frightening moments, especially when you're being pursued constantly, where you turn a corner and now you no longer, just like Fiona, the main character's name is Fiona, no longer has eyes on the pursuer. You similarly don't have eyes on the pursuer because you don't have camera control. You can't just like rotate around, break the fourth wall, and no longer have eyes on who it is that is pursuing you. It's terrifying. But yeah, no tank controls I found very, very odd. But other than that, it takes place in a dark, like European, probably Gothic era castle. You're doing just like very simple puzzle stuff. You're doing inventory management. It is a pursual horror game, so the actual crux of the experience is being pursued by 4 different distinct antagonists throughout the experience that kind of ramp up both narratively in intensity.
The worst kind of horror. Continue.
I largely agree. This game, I didn't mind it so much, and maybe we can talk about why that is. So you play as Fiona, who is an 18-year-old, just absolutely stunningly beautiful female protagonist, and that's largely the point. She's supposed to be super beautiful because this game plays with voyeurism. That's kind of like the name of the game, is voyeurism. You always feel like you have watching eyes on Fiona, and the camera angles and they're all fixed camera angles, and you're like it kind of instills you with this feeling of you're not in control of Fiona, but you're watching Fiona along with the antagonists in the game, which is really, really effective.
Weird.
And honestly, it's a creepy and really powerful concept. So you as Fiona are going throughout this castle, and you do learn that you are the princess of the castle. You're actually inheriting this castle. And you have
as the player learn that, or Fiona learns that?
Fiona learns that very early on. A character in the castle basically, reveals this to her. Something happened to her parents. She does have some weird memory flashback type of thing where she sees her parents, her included, get in some type of car accident, which is like it plays kind of with your temporal expectations about the game a little bit. You think it's actually this game could be taking place in like the 1500s or the 1600s, and then they have a flashback where she's in an automobile accident. So the flavor of that is a little disjointed, and you get that in the opening cutscene even. So you as Fiona are basically trying to learn what your parents were up to. Fiona possesses something called the Azoth, which is this special principle, the special, it's honestly super sweaty and cringy, but it makes her special. And her pursuers want this element of her, that the fact that she has the Azoth elevates her to this place of specialness where her pursuers then need to get this thing from her. So you as Fiona are basically going throughout this castle looking for your answers, knowing that you are in fact the inherited, or you inherited the castle itself, so it's yours. But then why do you constantly feel like you're on the receiving end of antagonism constantly? It's this really weird, trippy thing. Colin, were you going to say something?
No, I like that aspect of it as well. It's your castle. Why isn't this should not be pressure on me, this entire situation?
Exactly. So I would outside of general survival horror, puzzle solving and stuff like that, and just general exploration and escaping your pursuers, I think probably the most interesting gameplay mechanic thing here is your dog Huey. You have a little white German Shepherd that accompanies you throughout the entirety of the experience, and
he's a
Fiona,
good boy.
He is a very good boy, and you better treat him well because the endings in this game are dependent upon how well you treat Huey.
No fucking way.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Wait, the most important thing though, can you pet the dog?
You can pet the fucking dog. You can
pet the fuck out of the dog.
There's a whole
animation.
The
dog. You can play fetch with the dog.
So good.
So the thing is, Fiona, largely the point of Fiona is that she's absolutely and utterly a victim. She's helpless. She's pitiable. And every expression that hangs on her face is one of utter pity. You just feel so utterly bad for it. And she's just suffering. She's suffering the entire time. She's terrified. She's in over her head. She just wants peace, and she's nothing but terrified throughout the entirety of the experience. So Huey actually serves, I guess, the function of being the muscle. So if one of your pursuers, Fiona can only basically hide in the game, but if one of your pursuers actually antagonizes you, and there's boss fights with each of the pursuers at the end of their section of the castle, you can use the right stick to control Huey, to have him attack or to growl or to patrol and things like that, which is fantastic. You turn into a room and your pursuer is there. You just say, Huey, go get him. And he goes for the jugular, and then you get out of dodge and you run away, and you just hear in the distance what is going on with your dog, whether or not he gets kicked off, or if he goes down, or if your pursuer goes down. It's really, really neat. And then you have to train Huey. When he does something well, you have to praise him. And when he does something that you don't like, you have to scold him. And that there's an invisible friendship meter with Huey in this game that actually matters in the end. And this bond specifically, I think, is so fucking special. It wouldn't feel the same if Fiona's like confidant in the game was another person. The fact that it is a dog who in many ways is as helpless as she is, and like they're relying on each other, but it's a wordless bond between one another. It's really, really fantastic.
I played the game for 45 minutes, concluding with me basically getting Huey to join my side, and I was fucking blown away in that 5 minutes that I played with the dog. It starts out, and this isn't too spoilery, but he's chained up. You rescue him and you send him off, but eventually he comes back to you. And that first moment when it says up on the right stick to bite the guy, and you bite that fucker and he runs away, you feel so fucking powerful.
It's amazing.
And the dog came out of nowhere to save you. You thought you were going to be dead. And then she's on the floor like distraught because obviously that's what would happen. And then she just fucking instantly bonds with the dog. You know, she's like, you came back for me. She remembers the name, and then they keep going from there. And I was just like, holy shit. You know, I didn't see that coming. I thought this was funny because I played this on my PS2. This is a recommendation to anybody who hasn't done the PlayStation 2 free McBoot mod. You can load up games onto a hard drive, and then, of course, you're backing up your own games. You wouldn't download games. That would be crazy.
Of course not.
And then, so I just played Haunting Ground on my actual PS2 on the CRT.
That's so cool.
But part of that is I didn't see the cover of the game, so I had no idea the dog was coming, actually. So that was
that's awesome.
A funny little side portion of playing it that way.
Yeah. I mean, the heart of Haunting Ground is the relationship between Fiona and Huey. And like the way in which they fill in each other's mechanical gaps is just, it's oddly satisfying. And the relationship is just so tender, where like there are a couple of times throughout the experience where like genuinely you are fearing for the other's safety. There are times where you fear for Huey's safety, or you're separated or something like that. And like the hole that it leaves within you when you're not with Huey and you don't know where he is profound. It's truly, truly felt. So I do think that honestly, the pet bonding mechanic of this game is the heart of its distinction compared to its other, survival horror peers in terms of the way in which this game plays, because otherwise you are just hiding under beds and in closets and stuff like that when these antagonists are pursuing you. So I mean, I in some small way do give this. I'm of the same mind as you are, Colin, where I am not a fan of pursuer survival horror. It's not interesting to me. Honestly, it's tedious and confusing.
Like your Outlast.
Like your Outlast. Like
even
that's I think
Resident
a great
Evil
example.
7, honestly, not a huge fan of that game though.
Sure,
I'm in the minority there.
Yeah, I love Resident Evil 7. But Keaton, how do you feel about this style of game?
I have not played a ton of like pursual horror. Like I said, I haven't played Clock Tower. I do think I would enjoy that. I don't know. I like that that blood pumping feeling of, like being chased. You just gotta like get the fuck out. I don't know. Like that really does like get my heart going. It like elevates all my vitals and everything. And it's fun as long as it doesn't last super long, or it's not like super obtuse or frustrating about like, figuring out where to go and dying over and over as you have to figure it out. It's kind of a delicate balance there, but I mean, I loved it in Resident Evil 7. I thought it was super cool. Trying to figure out like where you're safe, where you're not, kind of poking your head in a door, seeing the person in there and having to get the fuck out.
Yeah, it is certainly adrenaline pumping for sure. I mean, if there is a word for it, if it's done well, because like if it's not done well, then it's boring. It's the exact opposite. You're just like, you literally feel like helpless in ways that are mechanically uninteresting or frustrating or something like that. I'll say for Haunting Ground, it was a mixture. It was certainly a mixture. Because you do deal, as I was saying, with 4 different pursuers throughout the experience. The first one is the groundskeeper at the castle, and he's like this ginormous orcish looking dude who's just not there mentally, and he thinks Fiona is one of his dolls. He's like a doll collector as well, and she's just like this. It's a great introduction to the themes of this game, where like the idea is all about Fiona's purity and perfection, and then he literally sees her as a doll and can't distinguish between them. So there's something dark and interesting about that. The second pursuer is the maid of the groundskeeper of the actual castle itself. And she's too smart for her own good, which makes it really, really frustrating. She knows exactly where you are all of the fucking time, which makes it so frustrating. And like, even at its worst, is she knows familiar hiding spots in the environment where you're going to go, where like she will be literally chasing you. You'll go into a room where you know there's a hiding spot. You'll open up the hiding spot and she's in there. And you're like, what in the fuck? This is insanity. But like, I mean, as always, when a video game gives you two goals simultaneously, it gets really frustrating where like I have my head set on solving an environmental puzzle, and then you throw a pursuer in there, and now I have two goals simultaneously. One is to get away from the pursuer and not get a game over screen, and the other is to solve the thing that I'm like racking my head against. That sense of frustration is pretty profound.
That sounds really frustrating, having to do both at the same time. I would much rather have them split.
Right, because then you feel like while you're hiding, you're simply biding time until you can get back to the task on hand. And there's something about that just feels like I'm literally wasting my time. You then, in the third pursuer in the game, literally has a gun that can one-shot you, which is just so fucking annoying, because even if you're like all the way down the hallway, they can just fucking get you in the back and brat you, and then you go down and it's a game over. I will say I didn't get too many game overs in this game. I think maybe I might be hyping up a little too hyperbolically the annoyingness and the danger of these pursuers. I think maybe more interesting than the mechanical stuff is that, honestly, just the narrative relevance of it. The maid character who pursues you second, she's not fully human. There's like a cool horror fantasy element to this game. It truly feels like a dark folk tale in some ways, which is cool to play with, a different energy that isn't like obviously like Resident Evil Biohazard stuff, or, Silent Hill, which is more like nightmare driven. This is kind of like fantasy in flavor. You're dealing with like princesses and like, weird creatures and stuff like that. So the maid isn't fully human. She's envious of Fiona's like literal sex characteristics. Like she wants Fiona's uterus. Like how weird is that? She just wants to give birth. So she's pursuing you to get your uterus.
Nice.
Like it
like literally to take it out of her and like take it for herself.
Conceptually, right?
Conceptually, like she's envious of the fact that you feel pleasure and like can like have babies and stuff like that, and she can't, and she like is so envious of that. Who knows the actual like, I guess, stakes of that and what she would do if she were to actually pursue you. One of the things about this game, despite it being very, very heavy in tone, is it is tasteful as fuck. And that's so cool. When you're not dealing with death, you're dealing with like literally defilement. And like that's so heavy thematically. It's so heavy thematically. And that can go wrong when you're playing with those themes with the smallest of missteps. Haunting Ground doesn't miss a step. It doesn't ever, over sexualize Fiona or anything like that.
It's a little horny. Okay, I grabbed this screenshot from my first part of the game. Hold on. So it's when she starts off in the bathrobe. Okay, game's not horny, says John.
It's a bed sheet. I'm sorry, it's a bed sheet.
Bed sheet, right? Correct. So then they change the clothes, and then she gets the first gothic clothing, and it says it fits nice to my form. Except it's a little too tight in the chest.
A little snug in the breast, yeah. I rolled my eyes at that as well, for sure.
Hilarious.
Yes, but like honestly, like if you're like, I even think that stuff was done tastefully, because there's a moment where she's changing out of her bedsheet into the gothic clothing, where like Daniela, who is the maid, says like, here's your clothing, princess, and like lays them out on the bed, and then turns to a painting where someone is very clearly watching Fiona change through the painting. And you kind of expect that like you're going to experience that along with the voyeur, but they do it so tastefully. So like that that it's happening, but you don't ever, you don't visually exploit Fiona in any realistic way.
Correct. And the game is a little horny. It's kind of unavoidable, but it actually serves the theme in this case. It's not just like fan service per se. It's actually
not fan. That's exactly the point, Colin.
To the theme of the game.
Yes. That's exactly the point, that it's
thematically
not
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just like no nude scenes, no even like underwear scenes outside of a bed sheet that she's wearing, because like literally the point is that they're gonna do really terrible things to her. So like her in a bed sheet, like she should have been naked in those scenes, and the fact that they even put her in a bed sheet is a good thing. So I mean, this game is really really cool, and it plays with those themes like literally for maybe the first 6 to 7 hours, and then at the end of the game, it does get like super weird horror, almost like cosmically weird, and like almost like Black Logi weird. Where like the logic of it doesn't make much sense, and like you're going into rooms and things don't like any longer like abide by the actual physical laws of reality. I like this. I always like when horror games rip the knob off and get like cosmic and Lovecraftian and stuff like that. This game isn't scary, and if you're going to like rip the knob off in terms of like Lovecraftian, this game is icky. It's not scary. So like if you're going to get cosmically weird with the horror, maybe freak me out a little bit or try to freak me out. Wasn't too much spooked by this one, honestly.
I guess just how you feel about the chase aspect, right? Because maybe I'm not scared either, but I don't like being chased, and it's stressful. Right. Stressful is different than scared, I guess.
Mm. It's a survival horror game that plays with different negative emotions, and that's kind of neat. That is certainly kind of neat.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds like they're working with things just like other than fear, like there's
exactly, Keaton.
Something to be said about like making the scariest game possible, like Resident Evil 7, I think is scary as fuck. But it doesn't play with a whole lot outside of just fear. So playing like
bodily fear.
Playing with like pity and like anxiety, and I don't know. It does sound a little more textured, a little more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And like Fiona obviously is going through an incredibly stressful situation. She does have a panic meter, and like when an enemy hits her, it doesn't necessarily like do damage to her. It stresses her the fuck out. And when she gets so stressed out, she like actually has like a panic attack and freaks out. And the screen goes into like weird frenetic colors, and like you don't have full control over her anymore, which sucks when you're being pursued, obviously. And she's like tripping over herself and like running in odd directions and stuff like that momentarily, and you have to like regain control over her. So yeah, it's not really this game doesn't play with like the fear of like getting your arm cut off or dying. It plays with something weird and like mental and psychological, and it just feels like it's playing another game entirely. So, I mean, yeah, this game is special. It's gorgeous. This is one of the most beautiful PS2 games that I've ever seen.
I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. The CG cutscenes, and then it's not like pre-rendered backgrounds. It's fully 3D environments.
Yeah, and no load screens. No load screens. How weird is that?
It's ridiculous.
None? Yep,
it's crazy.
Maybe between like major chapters or like cutscenes or whatever, they're probably loading things in the background during those things. But no,
you think of like Resident Evil, you open up a door and it shows you the cutscene or whatever, or between wings or whatever, you just open the door. So I think it has to work that way for the chase to work, right? It can't load between chase things. So mechanically, I think they had to figure it out that way.
Point.
Yeah, and it like 2005, pretty late in the PS2 cycle, and Capcom certainly has their head around that tech at that point. Yeah, for sure.
It's the latest it can be, really.
But like I am, hard pressed to find a more beautiful video game on the PS2 than Haunting Ground. It is stunning. Fiona is fucking beautiful. Huey, incredible, moves fluidly and naturally. The environments are stunningly beautiful. So technologically very, very impressive. One thing that I do want to shout out that I'm thinking of now is the music is really, really cool. I played you guys just a very small snippet of one of the chase sequences before this, and just how it's noise. It's industrial. It's just it is like anxiety in sound. What does anxiety sound like? It's that. One really cool thing about the music, though, of this game is that it actually all uses native PS2 system sounds for the soundtrack itself, for actual direct manipulation of the songs themselves while you're being pursued. So like, as opposed to them being like recorded MP3s or whatever that you import into the game and they're just pieces of music, they are in real time adapting and being manipulated based off of the status of the pursuer in relation to you. So like, as they're getting closer, or as Fiona's having more anxiety about the relationship between the pursuer, the music speeds up in tempo and then slows down and gets like this weird, drunken, wishy-washy, seasick kind of feeling. And because they're all system sounds, they can actually just apply an algorithm to it to change that in real time. I think that's really, really neat and interesting, as opposed to being, just fucking, pre-composed pieces of music. I thought that was really, really fucking neat. So yeah, I mean, like, honestly, when I rolled credits on this game, I thought it was incredibly special. And like, I understand the reverence for it. And it's hard to simply say, like, survival horror PS2 game, it's just that again. It has all of the fixtures, because it does, but it is special for sure. So it does, if survival horror is your thing and you're looking for something fresh, Haunting Ground does get a hard recommend for me. For sure. I think it's really, really, I loved this video game. I thought it was super fucking special. And, there are multiple endings, which drove me fucking crazy. The ending, this is literally a hill that I will die on. I hate multiple endings in games, even choice-based games. I fucking hate multiple endings. The ending I got was fine. I got like the true ending or whatever, and it was fine. The bad ending that you get in this game is when you mistreat Huey. And, I'll spoil the bad ending because who fucking cares? Don't mistreat Huey. Literally the final scene is just Fiona like sitting there and she's preggo as fuck. And like it just slowly zooms out on her being like, like kind of like oddly like satisfied with the situation, and she's just pregnant. And you're just like, what the fuck? That is so fucked beyond belief. But that only happens if you mistreat Huey. So just treat the dog good, But it is cool that like throughout the entire game, Fiona is just nothing but pitiable. In the final shot, I'm not going to reveal any of the actual context, but it's the first time that you see a stern look on her face, and that's the final shot that you see of Fiona. And it is so fucking effective that like your object of purity is actually capable and competent and comfortable in the world for the first time. It was really, really fucking powerful. So shout out, I get the fucking reference. I recommend that you guys play it at some point in your life, just as survival horror fans. It is definitely special. So that'll end my spiel unless you guys have any questions or anything that you guys want to comment on thereafter.
Just to go back to your very first initial question about why it's relevant or getting Steam in 2022, they don't make survival horror games anymore, or specifically not like this. They haven't done it since the PS2 era. Right. Resident Evil went off in its direction. It's conceptually returned to its roots a little bit, but it's still definitely different than the third person of that style. And I think people still like retro games. They're still willing to go back and reevaluate things. And I think Haunting Ground was prime for that.
For sure.
Yeah, certainly.
And Johnny, you mentioned early on in your spiel about people remembering this game very fondly. Do you think it is like nostalgia, like for the actual time? Like these people actually played it when it came out? Or do you think people found it later on when it, like the cult classic kind of thing where like it gains a following later on?
Great question. This game is very, very hard to get your hands on in 2022. If you have
it's not that hard though, right? I mean, if you just want to play it.
Right. It's very hard to get your hands on legally.
Yes.
It's very hard to get your hands on legally. You can buy it if you have a Japanese version of a PS3. It is on the Japanese PSN market. You can download it on the PS3.
Why do they do shit like that?
Not if you have a Western PS3. Or otherwise, you're dropping $500-$600 on a PS2 version. So, I mean, honestly, just emulate it. I mean, like, I'm not going to endorse any one thing, but like that's how you probably have to play the game, which sucks. Yeah. So, I mean, it is fucking hard to get your hands on. So, honestly, it's a tough question, Keaton, because the game didn't sell very well back in the day. So I can't imagine there's a huge armada of individuals that were playing it back in the day. Right. To begin with, outside of very niche circles.
And the PS3 was just about to come out as well. It wouldn't have had a long shelf life.
Yeah, and like it was a full price game and stuff like that. I can't imagine so many people just like clamoring to play Haunting Ground back in the day, but then it was subsequently difficult to find thereafter. So like honestly, it's a great question. I don't know how people remember this thing or how they got their hands on it or whatever. I mean, I do know that the horror game culture in general is pretty fanatic, and like people are gonna, collecting is a huge thing, and the rest of it, I wouldn't be surprised if people do find copies or whatever. But it's a good question, and honestly, I do not know, which is crazy. Capcom, you don't have to remake the game, but just fucking release it somewhere, please, that we can play. There is a Fiona skin in Street Fighter V. How weird is that?
That's crazy.
on Cammy or whatever her fucking name is. Yeah, they have a Fiona skin that's so fucking weird to me. So like, I mean, and that was only a couple of years ago. So that's not like truly out of the, cultural conversation. Yeah, I don't know. It's certainly a weird little thing. But if it's a cult classic, sign me up for that cult. I'm in. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Cool game. Cool fucking game. I'm gonna throw to you, Colin. The fuck you been playing, bro?
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
I've been playing a game several months ago at this point, but, here we are. Called Shantae. I have alluded on previous Happy Midnight things that Shantae was the mysterious series I was playing. Oh my god, guys. It's so good. And so we're talking about like how I was going to discuss the game or the series or whatever. And essentially I want to talk through with you guys. Why do I like it so much? I know it's good. You can't convince me otherwise, but why is it my favorite game of all time? That's hyperbolic as shit. I love Shantae so fucking much.
Let's get into it, baby. Let's go.
So I'm not going to talk about one game specifically, though. We'll focus largely on the Game Boy Color game because I think it's, if not the best, the most interesting and most like impressive of the series. Just give you a quick history lesson on Shantae since I've got these Switch games here. No big deal. First Shantae game, 2002 on the Game Boy Color. Notable because it's super late era. The Game Boy Advance was actually out at this time. They just got cut where they got caught where they couldn't make it for the Game Boy Advance in time, essentially.
Right.
And then a lot of time passes, and you get the DSiWare game exclusive Shantae Risky's Revenge. This is 2007, I believe. They finally all got out on Switch, which is cool, which is where everybody should play them.
Yeah, and for audio listeners, Colin's holding up beautiful box art of all the Switch versions right now. It's fucking awesome.
This one is fake. This is a reproduction cartridge. You want to know why?
Hell yeah.
Because the Switch version of Shantae the Pirate's Curse costs $600.
Awesome.
$600. Not the original version of the game. This is a re-release. $600. This is a 3DS game. Game 4, Shantae Half Genie Hero. This one's real cheap. You get this one $30 anywhere. No big deal. Switch game. And then the latest game is Shantae and the Seven Sirens. This case is authentic, but there's no game inside.
Okay.
Because this costs $100.
Gotcha.
That's the latest
why do you have
game.
the case and no game?
Keaton, you ask. It's because the digital version came with this plush I bought of Shantae. But I still needed to have the case on my shelf. So for some reason, Limited Run Games sold the case for $3. So I got the case for $3, but I have this plushie, and I just wanted the plushie. Because guys, you don't understand. This game took over my life. I have to have all the things.
Yeah, and for audio listeners, again, this plushie, you have to see this plushie. Go to YouTube and look at the thing, because the plushie is out of control.
I then bought the official Shantae art book.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Which is a ginormous book of all the sketch arts for all the games, and it's beautiful and wonderful.
This game does have the whole series has a great art style. I do really like it. It does. It's light and cartoony and
some soundtracks. This is the Risky Beats soundtrack.
Awesome.
Nice.
This is also fake. This is the original Game Boy Color game. Guess how much a loose cartridge of the Game Boy Color game costs?
Those are expensive. I know that.
$350.
$800.
Nice.
And
It's
then
not
if
gonna
you
guess
want a
that
box
much.
copy, you're gonna get like $2,000.
Jeez.
Okay. So that's the history of Shantae. It's developed by Way Forward. All the games are directed by Matt Bozon, the studio head at Way Forward. So Shantae, it's a Metroidvania, right? We've all played Metroidvanias. Is that correct here? Familiar?
Yeah.
I've played one or two in my time.
Sure.
I did want to, on that point, I did have a question about it. Because I watched some like YouTube videos about like the history of the series a little bit and some gameplay. But it sounds like it's individual levels that are themselves little self-contained Metroidvanias. Is that accurate?
Well, Keaton, it varies by game.
It's got a whole stack of notes.
So the first game, the Game Boy Color game, is just a Metroidvania, open world style, and it's an important distinction, actually, level-based Metroidvania versus open world, which is kind of like the traditional one we're talking about.
Right, because I think of like Warrior Land 2 or any of the Warrior Land games.
Yes, excellent example. That's your level-based Metroidvanias, right?
Yeah, with multiple exits and secrets and stuff, but there's a beginning and end of the level.
So the first two, Shantae and Risky's Revenge, are the open world. And then Pirate's Curse is very small islands. There's like 10 to 12 small islands that you have Metroidvania stuff on. And you take your Metroidvania between the islands and stuff. But this is kind of how they set the series on, because the next one is even worse. And it's weird for this to be their fourth game, but it's almost arcade style level based. And then they make it torturous to go back through the level. They give you like mid-level warps. You can't go back and forth between the levels. Like once you pass a checkpoint, you cannot go backwards. Like in the island-based one, you can at least go back and forth. That was kind of a misstep, and they went back to the Metroidvania for the other one. But so I wanted to focus on the Game Boy Color game. It's just the most beautiful game I've ever seen on the Game Boy Color. Are you guys familiar with the Mega Man sprite trick and how they make that animate so well?
No, I don't think so.
It's kind of a retro video game history lore thing. There are always two Mega Mans on screen at all time, and they animate together, which is what makes them look so colorful and distinct. You can't tell them separately, but that's what allows them to do all the animations and stuff.
What do you mean, like the original Mega Man? Like
the
NES?
Yes, the NES Mega Mans. That's how they handled that. So for Shantae, there are 12 Shantaes on screen at all times.
Whoa.
I listened to an interview with a developer, and he was just describing all this stuff. Great interview. It's a Retronauts episode. And then all this, because there's sprite limits on the screen as well, and so that if Shantae was like at any point of the screen, they couldn't let that happen over here, and the game was apparently horrible to make, and that's why it took so long to come out. But they just took all this.
When you say there are 12 sprites, are they all like full-body sprites, or is Shantae herself made up of smaller sprites?
So they're 12 sprites stacked on top of each other, but like they animate differently. So that allows like for more frames of animation and to look different and more unique, essentially.
Just to create a smoother animation?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And occupy and be bigger and all that stuff. But and I didn't think doing a Metroidvania game on the Game Boy Color was possible, right? And just to be open world, it's a 12 to 15 hour game.
No way.
Yeah, it's the whole deal, which really blew me away.
Damn.
And this is where I'll start throwing in some of the soundtrack. It's the best Game Boy Color soundtrack, which I realize is not the first time I said this on the podcast. Looking at you, Pokemon trading card game. But it's
every time Colin plays a Game Boy Color game, no, this is the best soundtrack on the Game Boy Color.
But it's the composer is Jake Kaufman, and he does the whole Shantae series. It's this crazy deep bass soundtrack. So if you play the game, you have to have headphones on for sure, or you'll be missing out on most of the effect. But okay, so getting into why do I love Shantae? The game is fucking charming. The game is unbelievably charming. I'm now going to lay out the cast of characters here for Shantae. So you've got the title character, Shantae. She is a half genie hero. Her mother is a genie. Her father is a human. You never see either of these people in the series. She's okay. Her catchphrase is "Ret to go," which is cute as shit. Everyone should watch the Seven Sirens opening animation. It's the most amazing thing. It's a J-pop song.
Us?
Yeah. It's a J-pop song with some anime style animation. Give you a good character show. So she is kind of, her guardian is Uncle Mimic, not her actual uncle. He's your stereotypical father figure. He screws up a bunch that she has to rescue him. You have the dumb guy friend, Bolo. Bolo does not wear a bolo tie. Bolo's number one characteristic is that he's horny for the villain of the game, who is an evil pirate lady named Risky Boots. Risky Boots.
Awesome.
What a great
Fantastic.
Love it.
And that's the second game is called Risky Revenge. She recurs in all the games. You have your girlfriend. Her name is Sky, and she has a bird named Wrench. which is a mix of the bird wren and a finch. Get it? But the bird is also a wrench. Get it?
Woo!
Get it? And then, like, to open up dungeons, the bird will fly in and then, like, unscrew the dungeon for you because it's a wrench, but it's a wren and a finch.
Wow. What do you mean the bird is a wrench? Like, it's made of metal and it's literally just a wrench with wings?
It's a bird. It's a full-on bird that acts as the tool, a wrench. It will contort. Like, there's a dungeon and there's like a bolt that you need to undo. A cartoony shapeshifter, yes. It's a bird and it flies up to the bolt that it needs to undo, and then its mouth just goes on the shape of the bolt and then unscrews it to get you into the dungeon.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. Okay, getting into some of the weirder stuff, because this wasn't weird enough. She has another girlfriend named Roddy Tops. Roddy Tops is a zombie. She starts out as a villain, but becomes her best friend. There's a group of zombies. She has brothers Abner and Poe, and they want to eat your brains. Zombies in Shantae, they want to eat your brains. Roddy Tops, the whole first game is trying to eat your fucking brains, bro. Pop quiz. How do the zombies stop themselves from wanting to eat brains?
I don't know.
Coffee. They need coffee. They're coffee connoisseurs. They drink coffee. Sure. They don't need to eat your brains anymore. They're very nice people. They're best friends now with Shantae. It's fantastic.
This is cute as fuck, Colin. All of this is so cute.
I'm
all about this.
We're charmed straight off.
Yes.
I think that's it for the characters. Risky Boots is incredible. She's a very busty blue pirate lady that Bolo wants to get it on with all the time.
And this is a franchise villain, you said.
Franchise villain. Yeah, your Dr. Robotnik's, your Bowser's. She's in every game. They try to subvert it a little bit at some points.
Sure. And the characters that you were just describing, you were kind of talking about some transformative relationship stuff in terms of being like, at one point the Zombos being like bad guys and then coming. Is this cross game stuff? In one game they were bad guys, and then like are these relationships enduring across all iterations of the game throughout the series' lifetime?
Yeah, that's one of the cool parts about the series is it's all linear. The first game, and then the relationships grow, and you are kind of meeting them. Like they've met before, but like the initial relationship is forged in the first game. And I think this is one of the unique characteristics of the series is the game worlds are almost the same the whole time. There are definitely differences. The world is called Sequinland, and it all works in the same way. Like the fields are always to the right of the starting area. And as the game goes on, it gets different. The fifth game, she goes to a different island to get out of that. But it was both, I think, a weird choice, but satisfying to kind of know what you were getting into.
Sure.
And they would iterate and improve the graphics as it went through. We were talking about it started as pixel art, and then it went into just like really beautiful 2D sprites by the end of it, HD 1080p stuff.
I love the art style of the most recent two. Absolutely gorgeous. This is what I wish more of these like 2D games were like. You can do a game that like, pays a lot of reference to the old school, 2D platformers, but it doesn't have to be pixel art just because it's doing that. You can do so many things, and everyone just going straight to pixel art every time is a little disappointing. I don't necessarily dislike pixel art, but it definitely feels overused at this point. So,
you don't have to go 3D. It doesn't have to happen,
Yeah, that doesn't have to happen either.
Started in 2002. The last game came out in 2019. Yeah, that's
pretty long.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's
They've
got
always
this
done
gorgeous
well.
hand-drawn art style. Just love.
Yeah.
17, 18 years. I think staying mostly under the radar is kind of impressive why they keep making them, right?
Well, that's why like hearing that actual stretch of time like said out loud was surprising to me, because there's something about Shantae that I think of as like a modern video game character, but that's simply not true. She's a 20-year tenure. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's just like one of those things you don't understand, like all video game fandoms. It's impossible to grasp it all. There are enough people buying these games that it makes sense for this. Not Nothing Studio. We were talking about some of the games they make. They're doing the new Advanced Wars boot camp thing or whatever that's coming out. Right. They're a well-known studio, and they haven't like been bought out or sold the Shantae IP. It's a passion project for them, which I think is really cool. Shantae was designed by the director's wife, Erin Bozon, and it was just one of her characters that they eventually made into a video game, and it became the franchise.
Yo, she cute though.
Also fucking charming. Okay, so the last character I wanted to bring up is the best one, Squid Baron. He is a giant squid, and there are barons of Sequinland. There's Techno Baron, there's Squid Baron, and the barons change between games. They're the bad guys. So Squid Baron is this giant squid, and he's the fourth wall breaker of the game. And so the first time you meet him, he's just your typical bad guy. You beat him up real good. He's the first boss, and it's no issue whatsoever. You meet him in the third game, and before you fight him, you have a conversation with him. He's just on an island, and he's like, "Hi, Shantae, what's up? I missed you." And he's like, I was just really upset. I thought I was more of like a fourth boss character, not a first boss character. This is bullshit. And Shantae is like, "I'll help you, Squid Baron." And from there, eventually he goes on until he's almost like the penultimate boss in the fifth game and stuff.
So it's a meta game. They will comment on the actual meta experience of the thing, or no?
It's mostly Squid Baron. The entire experience is not there, but that is Squid Baron's purpose, is to comment on everything like that.
Beautiful.
So that's mostly. I just needed to get this out of my system, guys. This has been in me for months.
I
just want to go and talk a little bit about the games specifically. So the first two are just largely similar Metroidvania games. And then the third one is where it became the level-based Metroidvania, which is where I think the series took the bad turn. It just doesn't go well. It still operates in a Metroidvania way. You're just adding infinite loading screens. Like, to go try your ability, you have to run to the boat, get on the boat, go to the other island, and try your ability. If you're playing Metroid or anything like that, you can just explore the world fluently. And then Half Genie Hero specifically is rough in that way. Half Genie Hero is interesting in that it was a Kickstarter game, and they're continuing to add modes to it. It's the first game where you can play as there's like a friendship mode where you play as Bolo, Sky, and Roddy Tops, and they all have different modes, and it's an entirely different game. That game has like infinite content. And so the fifth game is an Apple Arcade game. Isn't that wild? They were specifically commissioned by Apple to launch this is when the Apple Arcade was coming out, and it released in 2 parts. And that's where I first heard about the game, and that was the first Shantae game I played. I eventually went back to Pirate's Curse, but I tried it on Apple Arcade. Thank God they've rescued it, and you can just buy it on Switch as a final product now.
Sure.
I was looking it up. They just did an update late in 2021. They added an entire new definitive mode to the fifth game, which I thought was pretty wild that they're still supporting that game. And boy, I'm just looking forward to the next Shantae game. Fuck.
Are there whisperings of it?
No, not yet. Gotcha. And it kind of upsets me that they just did the update because that means they're not working on the next game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So I mean, like, what I want to dive into here is actually, obviously we're largely putting you on trial here and trying to identify why the fuck this thing is in fact so special.
Bring it.
And you are like actually not the only person that I've heard this opinion from. Like, I remember like certain personalities in the gaming industry speaking with a similar reverence for Shantae and her titles. And even I, who had, watched a number of playthroughs on YouTube at this point in preparation for this thing, skipping through, obviously, and maybe not really truly, sucking it all in as one would with a Game Boy in their hand. How does it feel to play? Like actually like mechanically and stuff like that. How does she feel to hop around things and transform into different creatures and stuff like that? Obviously that has to be in place or the charm itself would fizzle if she doesn't feel good in your hands. Can you talk about the gameplay a little bit?
Yeah, and this is something that grew across the series. The first game is fantastic. It's got some issues. The hitbox. So she attacks by whipping her hair.
I've seen it. Yep.
Also fantastic. It's too short. So you have to walk right up to enemies and whip them. So that's the main issue with the first game. The jumping, The transformation, she does the monkey transformation and the elephant transformation. The monkey can do wall climbing stuff, as you would expect. It eventually learns an ability where it can like rocket across wall to wall, so it can traverse that way. And the elephant essentially just exists to smash blocks and like ground pound switches. So it's pretty basic in that. The thing that makes the hair whipping shortage good in the first game is there's an entire magic system, but what is bizarre about the magic system is it's finite. You buy items. You buy 5 uses of the Thunderbolt magic instead of just having a mana pool. And they did away with that system. Yeah, exactly. But once you get the magic and you can start flinging it around, I'm a classic video game hoarder, so I didn't use any of that magic, and I struggled with the first game until I started just letting it fly, and all that stuff is very fun. By the time they get to the third one, Pirate's Curse, game feels so fucking good. Oh my god. So in that one, you're working with, I'm going to spoil the shit out of the games. It doesn't matter. It's not story-driven games. It's all about the charm the whole time. So in the third game, you're working with Risky Boots, the series villain, and you get her equipment. So you get Risky's pistol, Risky's cutlass, and all that traversal stuff is fucking incredible. You get her cannon, which gives you like a triple jump, so you can literally just float for forever. You get this ridiculous dash with the cutlass. So you need a long runway, and you dash with the cutlass, and then you jump, and then you float for like literally a minute straight. You just cover these crazy distances using all the traversal mechanics. And it's just so smooth. And using the cutlass is better than the hair whip, actually. You know what I mean? So they figured it out by then. And then from there on, the last 2 games are almost identical. It's like they developed the art that Keaton was talking about for Half Genie Hero, and then they ported that to Seven Sirens and just redid the artwork and stuff. Gotcha. All the mechanics, all the magic. They added a confusing monster card system, which gives you minute bonuses that don't fucking matter, that you can add in, kind of like create your own build. But that's the only difference. So
what sort of bonuses?
Use less mana on this attack, or your hair will whip so much longer, and you can mix and match. It's an annoying system though, because you have to farm monsters to get it. So you get in that classic Diablo-esque style where you're running off screen, killing the enemy. It didn't drop. That was pretty frustrating, but the games feel incredible. It's a weird series in that it like universally on Metacritic gets 82%. No less, no more. Always 82%, which is weird, you know?
Do you, are there any like universal gripes that other people have that you would like to take to task? Like, have you read anything online about like what kind of umbrage could anybody possibly throw at a series like this? Have you seen any of that?
I think Shantae fans are broken. And I think if you're in, and you've got nothing bad to say about the game.
Awesome.
I tried to join a Shantae fan group on Facebook.
Shantae.
And I'm a Shantae. I'm a Shantae of Shantae.
Yep.
It's not hard enough. The games became trivially easy, and part of that update I was talking about for the last game is they released what is called the Definitive Edition. That is supposed to be what they call traditional Shantae hard. The first game's pretty hard. I'm like, oh great, cool. So I played the shit version. Thanks, guys. They changed the entire game out from underneath me. I don't truly appreciate that.
So like, you think about like how Shantae might live alongside its other like Metroidvania peers. Do you think it occupies original enough of a space that like it can live alongside Metroid and Castlevania and like Hollow Knight and stuff like that? Is it original enough, do you think?
You have to. It's like what you value. Like we talk about vibes a lot and charm, and if you're just looking for an extremely solid, charming, and fun Metroidvania, I think Shantae is like the best one. But it is not. It is not Hollow Knight, which is mechanically intricate and dark and doing something fresh, and the badge system is unique, and the difficulty is brutal but totally fair, And I remember mixing those charms for hours trying to find the right thing. That's not in Shantae, but it's kind of what you're looking for.
Well, yeah, and like honestly, to me, like hearing that is like that sells me on Shantae more so than other most Metroidvanias. Like as somebody who loves Metroid and Castlevania, like largely speaking, when I play a Castlevania game, I'm going to Dracula's castle. I know what I'm doing. When I go to when I play Metroid games, I'm not a huge Metroid apologist. I love Super Metroid. But like some of the other subsequent Metroid games, I'm just like, I just feel alone and like it's all the same vibe. But there's something about Shantae to me that really lights me up because the charm is always what I'm looking for in games. It's kind of unspoken in a particular type of way where like you get in and you're just possessed by something beyond the game itself. And that to me is so exciting.
I think that's a good point that Metroidvanias inherently have a uniqueness problem. They're all largely the same. You talk about Castlevania, Symphony of the Night is one of the best games of all time. But then like Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, Portrait of Ruin are all arguably the exact same game. They're all fun, but they're all identical. So in this genre that everyone
what happens
loves,
when you just like nail a formula, you know, like just don't fuck with it. Don't fuck with it. It's perfect.
Right. But in this genre where everything is so similar, if it's not going to be Hollow Knight for mechanical brilliance, I'm going to take my fun charm game with the best Game Boy Color soundtrack. You heard it. Available. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it hit me at the right time too. I remember I picked up, have you guys ever heard of the game Vigil, The Longest Night?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's a somewhat popular Switch Metroidvania that's like extremely Dark Souls. And I bought it, and I was hyped to play it, and it was just too fucking much for me. I was like, I just don't have it in me to care and learn these systems, and that's when I found Shantae, and I just went, wee!
yeah, dude, yeah, heck yeah. I mean, like honestly, that's so exciting to me. Go ahead, Keith.
I'm just gonna say, it was very similar with me and Moonlighter. You know, like I said, it's about what you're expecting and what you want to play at that moment. And I think I was like coming off Sekiro, maybe, and just like needed something a little more relaxed. Like I've been fucking tense. Like I just played Sekiro for 3 months straight. Like I need something to like chill me out a little bit.
Yeah,
and just found it at the right time.
Yeah, for sure. And like it like. I mean, insofar as like Colin is describing this to me as somebody who has no experience with Shantae specifically, it feels like it is a gift. Like it feels like Shantae itself is willing to give itself to you, and like it's there to like, you know, relax you, and it's there to engage you, and it's there to be silly, it's there to be distracting and stuff like that. But like, yeah, if you're playing Sekiro for fucking 3 months or whatever, like, and then like Shantae's here waiting for you to be like, I got you, homie, get over here, and it's full and it's complete and it's silly and it's like. That to me is just like I love that formula of a video game. I love it so much. So like honestly, Colin, I'm kind of sold on this thing. And like honestly, like I have been wanting to play a Shantae game for a very very long time. I just didn't know where to start. I didn't know any information about it or whatever. But like you've sold me pretty hard.
They're all available on Switch digitally. They all got ported to the Switch. The first Shantae, the Game Boy Color one. Is only $10.
Cool.
So that's not bad. You can also just emulate the Game Boy Color version of that. That'll be just fine for you.
Where do you recommend a newcomer starts?
John, I wasn't prepared for this question.
Sorry, bro. I'm sorry, dude.
There's no way
you got.
The first Shantae. You shut your mouth when you're talking about Shantae. I'm a Fante here, boy. So the first one I think is the most amazing, but that's because I'm like a weird, perverse lover of video game history. And the whole time I was like, they're doing this on a fucking Game Boy Color. Are you kidding me? This is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend that one. It's got to be Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, which is the 3DS one. So cool. Smooth. They upgraded the art style here. This is actually an in-between pixel art and the later style as well. I I would definitely start with Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Only $600 to buy the physical Switch version.
Easy point of entry.
You mean the Switch one? How much would it be like on the 3DS? Do you have an idea?
The 3DS one is like 120 bucks.
He's got that too.
If you're an audio listener, you're missing the fuck out, dude.
This is
Step your game
man.
up. Colin is blowing everyone's mind right now.
This is also just a case because I got the case for like $6 thinking I would get the cartridge cheap. I have not gotten the cartridge cheap yet.
There's a listing for 80 and 65 on eBay. Doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah.
No manual.
I have another Shantae art book. It's for Half Genie Hero.
Colin,
Nice.
have you ever gone this hard for a franchise before?
No.
In terms of memorabilia and stuff?
Nope.
That's
I don't care.
crazy, dude.
I own like 6 total plushes, and all of them were acquired for free or from my childhood. But then I bought this plush as a 28-year-old adult male. I bought this plush, and then, guys, they made a Roddy Tops plush, and you know what I did?
What'd you do, Colin?
I bought the Roddy Tops plush.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you did.
Don't tell me you don't have it
Oh
on
my
hand.
God.
Where is it?
Okay, I know this is also it hasn't come yet. It was through limited run games, so I bought it 4 months ago and it has not shipped yet.
Yep, that's about right.
Hold on, there's one other piece of Shantae I need to grab. 1 sec.
In the meantime, I'm gonna look up Roddy Top
Yeah, who was that
on
again?
Google.
How do you even spell that? ROTTY?
Well, I googled something not right.
Okay, it is ROTTYTOPS.
Oh, Roddy Top.
Like rotten. I can't really explain the name Roddy Tops, but
Oh,
that's
she's
what
the
it is.
zombie one. Right.
Yo, she cute though.
Shantae trading cards.
Wow. Oh my
God, Colin.
Shantae trading cards.
You have the
So they're
complete
different
set
art
or
styles.
what?
So it's the Game Boy Color. They're listed by game. That's Roddy Tops in the middle there. And then that's like the Game Boy Color art.
I'm seeing some saucy fucking pictures of Roddy Top right now on Google. I'm gonna stop this while on cam.
Shantae fans, very horny.
Johnny's eyes just glaze over. He's not paying attention.
You know, John, it's in service of the game, though. You know, it's not like fan
Correct.
service. It's in service of the Shantae lore and story that
That's
they're
right.
putting together.
Yeah. This game is horny as hell, but it's thematically relevant. It's all very important.
Yes.
I want to look. I mean, when you were describing all the characters, Bolo lit me up the most. I got to see what this help me looks like.
Bolo's kind of lame.
He's kind of lame, but he's horny for. Oh wait, yeah, he is kind of lame.
Look up Risky Boots.
Risky Boots.
Risky Boots.
Yo, she's so fucking hot.
She's so fucking hot.
What the hell?
Bolo is so horned up for.
Can we stop this podcast already? What are we doing?
Yep, we're done.
Yep, we're done. Bye, guys. Man, these characters are hot as fuck. Does that at all go into your love for this game, Colin?
No, and I'm not upset by it. So we're tossing jokes. The games are largely not horny. So when they redid
Bruh.
I
Pirates,
oddly believe you. I oddly believe
I do
you. though.
not. They're all in bikini tops. They're all in bikini tops. They're all bouncing around constantly. You can't tell me this game is not horny.
No, I'm saying largely. They absolutely betray themselves occasionally. Keaton in the Seven Sirens, Sky, the girlfriend, just lays and sunbathes in a bikini the entire game. And halfway through the series, they there's no voice acting. So they do like, you know, your portrait. When they redid Pirate's Curse, they made them the most obnoxiously busty portraits for some reason.
Naturally.
But that's not what the original game was. And by the fourth game, they start making fan service fourth wall jokes about themselves.
Appreciated.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Largely not horny. Gets very horny sometimes. That's the honest thing.
Well, I mean, like honestly, you know, making character models in general, just like in art, in video games, whatever, is difficult as fuck because you want them to be attractive. You want them to be attractive, but you don't want to necessarily make them horny. That's an impossible balance, especially when you're dealing with a half genie who's going to wear skimpy clothing naturally because she's a genie.
She's a belly dancer.
She's a belly dancer.
That is how she transforms. That's how she transforms.
They were written into a corner from the beginning. So
It was designed by a woman, so that gives them the clear, right?
Oh, yeah, it's all good then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, let's end this podcast so I can forget it.
Continue looting this character to infinity. It's all good.
I feel like we're losing sight of the plot, Colin.
Long time ago, buddy. Shantae's the fucking best. Let's go.
Is there anything else you want to say about Shantae? Because like I'm kind of sold on it. That's not horny at all. Look at those heaving bosoms. Nothing horny about that.
That's the last game. They lost the thread by then.
Audio listeners, you're missing out. I swear to God.
Man, oh man.
But he's cute as fuck.
That's fucking Squid Baron, the best character in the game.
That's Squid Baron, dude.
That's Squid
The
Baron.
little bottom tooth, dude. The little bottom tooth is 10 out of 10.
Holy shit, man. That's cute.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I cede my Shantae time. We may proceed with the end of the podcast.
Well, thank you for the truly impassioned Shantae representation here. Shantae, go play it. Go. What are you doing right now? Go play it. If you're listening to this, stop listening and listen for like 3 or 4 minutes longer, and then go play Shantae. So that brings us to the end of the discussion, at least. But like, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through Happy Midnight's mantle of happy masterpieces,
a pantheon,
branding,
if you will.
Yeah, so like what we're going to do moving forward is like the games that we're bringing to the table, the games that we're playing, we're going to make a special little space. We're going to make a special little canon for the games that we think are fucking masterful. Games that deserve a specific type of recognition that we can point to and say, hey, play this. This, if you're looking for something to play, this is going to bring you joy, bar none. So, we brought a couple of games to the table today. Why don't we go in discussion order? Keaton. Does Moonlighter deserve to be in Happy Midnight's mantle of happy masterpieces?
I gave it a soft recommend. I feel like that has to be no. It just didn't quite deliver on its promise enough for me to say yes. And I don't think I'll ever replay it. There's a new game plus that was added later. There's post-game content. Not really interested in any of it, honestly. I'm gonna have to pass.
Johnny, does Haunting Ground deserve to be in Happy Midnight's mantle of happy masterpieces? No, I don't think it does.
No,
I don't think it does.
Interesting.
I think it's an incredibly special game. I think it's incredibly memorable. But
you love your flawed horror games. White Day as well.
I love my flawed horror games for sure. But like if I'm going to frame something over my fireplace in my house when I eventually buy one when I'm 47 or whatever, Haunting Ground probably won't be there. Like I'm so happy I played it. I think it's super special. And those who know. But it's not something that I can like hand out pamphlets for like on a street corner and say like, you have to play this game. It's transformative. It's, it changed my life. It gave me like a week of enjoyment where like, I think I played it in 4 different sessions. Check it out on the YouTube channel. The entire playthrough's there. But yeah, and I thought about it for like days thereafter, but I don't think that it's magic. I think it's special. I don't think it's magic. So again, similar to Moonlighter, Haunting Ground gets a soft recommend to all gamers. It gets a hard recommend to all horror gamers. But I don't think it deserves a place in Happy Midnight's mantle of happy masterpieces. Colin.
It's a high bar for this honor. Does
Shantae, and I'm not going to let you slide with a franchise, but is there a Shantae title that belongs in Happy Midnight's mantle of happy masterpieces?
Nah. Just kidding. We will dance through the danger until the world is safe. Can't stop me now because I'm Shantae. You guys can't stop me. We talked about this beforehand. The criteria, there's no voting system. I am putting Shantae, the Game Boy Color, the very first one, into the Mantle of Honor. As I said, it's maybe not the absolute best playing one in the series, but it is the most impressive. It gave me the most vibes. It has the best soundtrack. And I was in heaven the entire time I was playing this game. The pants were charmed right off of me. Shantae. And that would you say, Happy Midnight Mantle of Happy Masterpieces?
I think so. We'll work on the brand.
There's a lot of alliteration in there. I appreciated it, though.
Yeah, there's shit there. So the first inductee into Happy Midnight's Mantle of Happy Masterpieces, Shantae for the Game Boy Color. It's
Fucking
beautiful.
Congrats, Shantae.
Put it, yeah. Congrats, dude. Clap it out. Everyone go play that fucking game. Beautiful. Boys, well, thanks for chatting. This was so much freaking fun. And hey, we're going to do it again very, very soon. Thank you to everybody out there listening. And have a fucking happy midnight, you motherfuckers.
Happy
Let's
midnight.
go.
Happy midnight, y'all.
Peace.